Hey guys, welcome to episode 9 of the Neowin Podcast. I'm Rich Woods.
And I'm João Carrasqueira.
How was your week
And
this week? Tell we talked a little bit about it, but tell me how your week went.
yeah, it was not. I mean, after Wednesday, things got a little easier, but the
Yeah.
first 2 days were really messed up. Some stuff happened.
Yeah, it was a tough week this week, right? Because you were down Monday and Tuesday, you know. And I had a lot of stuff. Like my wife graduated with her master's on Sunday. One of my best friends had a baby, his first baby on Wednesday morning. So I was at the hospital on Wednesday. That's why I wasn't online when the new Windows 10 build came out. Then yesterday was a holiday. So plus Monday and Tuesday you were down. Like it was a tough week.
Yeah, it was. We were
Yeah.
not.
A lot of stuff went on this week, some of it good, some of it bad, but we have some bad news about the Neowin podcasts.
It's gonna end now because
Well,
Microsoft.
we have to kill the segment about where is 19H2. So it's gone. We can't do
Yeah.
it. Um, but yeah, so Microsoft released the first Windows 10 19H2 build, which is 18362.10,000.
That is a big jump.
It is a big
But
jump. You know, once I was writing it, just a fun anecdote about how stupid I am. Like 2 years ago, I was writing an article, right? And there was some RTM cumulative update that they came out with, and it was like .5. And for some reason, my brain forgot that they're not using like the normal decimal system. That .10,000 is higher than .5. I'm like they're gonna run out of numbers. And Andy was like, "What are you talking about?" But yeah, so they released it to the slow ring as expected. The update is going to be a cumulative update as expected. They wrote 2 articles about it, which was an article about how the update will be delivered and an article announcing the build. No new features in this build. Minimal features in the update in general. They said quality and the select performance improvements, enterprise features, and quality enhancements are what we're getting in 19H2. So that's it. They didn't announce any known issues either.
Yeah, it's not really surprising. We already kind of knew with the way things were going, it had to be a small update.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at least they finally clarified things. So it's
Yeah.
about
Well,
time.
as we've talked about on the show a few times before, Xbox insiders have been testing 19H2 for months. But that's been a cumulative update. So we knew it was going to be a cumulative update, although theirs is .7,000 while this is .10,000. But you know what's interesting actually is that if you follow the Windows 10 build numbers, the Xbox Insider program has always provided a ton of insight into Windows 10 build numbers. Like you can tell that it builds RTM because they're servicing it already in the Xbox Insider program, and I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, it's they have a sort of different faster cycle, I guess, on the Xbox or something like that. They kind of
Right, right.
get there
So
faster. So
right, exactly. Well. They do. Um, Sometimes they do monthly feature updates. So they also don't use the same version numbers as Windows. So like 1903 was actually 1904, but then they had 1905, 1906, and now 1907 is coming this month. And so when we're not sure if, say, the 1903 build is RTM, Xbox insiders are already testing 1905 in the alpha ring, and you can see that is 18362 dot something else, and so obviously 18362 was RTM for, it's always provided a lot of insights for build numbers, and I've always looked to that.
yeah, I was when I found that out that the new builds on the Xbox Insider program were still 18362. I actually went back to see how things work because I never really paid too much attention to the build numbers on the Xbox development cycle.
Yeah.
And I just went back to see if they just update the build number at the end of the cycle or if this was actually an indication of what was happening. And it turns out it was. They're actually
No,
just
it's always has.
keeping.
Yeah, and it's funny because Zach Bowden from Windows Central is actually the one that pointed this out to me back at Build, and I'm like, so what do you think 1982 is going to be? Oh, it's going to be a cumulative update. Why do you? I said, why do you? Xbox insiders are getting cumulative updates, so it must be. It was right in front of us, and Microsoft didn't tell us anything that that we couldn't have known. It's targeted for September. 30 months of support for enterprise and education SKUs, regular 18 months of support for home and pro customers. Um, I don't know what took them so long, though.
Yeah,
It's a cumulative update.
exactly. You think, there's no known issues, there's nothing new. What's the holdup here?
Yeah, and as we've mentioned on the show many times before, um, they said spring. They missed the deadline. And really, because this is a service pack, it's all it is. Microsoft doesn't want to call it a service pack, but that's what it is. It's R2, it's SP1, it's 1903 SP1. That's all it is, and it's fine. You know, they won't commit to doing H2 updates like this.
But
Going forward.
yeah, do you think they should? That's something I was interested in talking
That
about.
they should do it this way, or that they
Yeah.
should commit to it right now.
Do you think that they should do it this way?
Yes.
They're never gonna commit
Yes.
to anything.
No, they won't. And a lot of people criticize them. So their statement was, given the scope of the 19H2 release, we're taking the opportunity to try something new in an effort to continue to improve the Windows 10 update experience. This may provide us future flexibility to offer a balanced range of Windows 10 feature update delivery methods, including OS swaps as as well as servicing technology like the monthly update process. And by the way, that was a big selling point that they that they said was that you're going to be able to update so fast because it's delivered like a monthly update.
Yeah,
Do you think that they should continue to do this?
I do think so. And this is kind of a change of stance for me because I was very supportive of the twice a year release cycles with those big feature updates when they announced it. But I like updates. But I'm a weird person in that regard. No
Yeah.
one likes no one likes to
No.
have to
The
update things.
regular person does not like updates at all on their PC. And
Exactly.
yeah, they don't like having a reboot. But it's also, I think that Windows or desktop operating systems in general are mature, and we don't actually need new features. You don't look at Windows and say, "Man, I wish it had this." And like what was your favorite 1903 feature?
That is a good question.
Or 1809 or 1803? Like, can you name one? 1709 for me was OneDrive files on demand. I can tell you that.
There's that.
1607 had a ton of inking features, which were great.
And
But
yeah,
it's like,
dark mode, right? Dark
and
mode.
dark mode, of course, yes.
Yeah, that was the
1607 was
biggest.
a great update. Now that you mention it,
Yeah, it was.
yeah, yeah.
But
But like that's the thing. We don't need two feature updates a year. Apple and Google on all of their platforms, they do one big update a year. So why would Microsoft push for two major feature updates a year on a legacy desktop operating system? You know, how
yeah,
we've used our PCs really hasn't changed over the years, and I know Microsoft will argue to death about this, but really, um, for years, you're using Windows to open apps through the Start menu, and you're using those apps, right? The apps have gotten better, tabbed browsing over the years. Broadband internet has opened up new possibilities, but ultimately, that's what we're doing. And like Microsoft would love to say like, oh, but we have inking and we have all this stuff. Like, very few people actually use inking on PCs. Very few people use pens.
That's true. There hasn't been a significant shift, and
Very few people talk to their PCs and use Cortana. That's why Cortana hasn't been able to take off in any meaningful way, because people want to use the voice assistant that's in their phone, not the one that's on their PC.
yeah, that's also true. So yeah, it's. I think there's also this. If they do keep doing this, it's better in probably every way because it makes feature updates more meaningful. Because right now you're
Right.
getting these big updates every 6 months, and
Yeah.
there's not a lot that justifies it for most people.
Right.
And for people like me, or not many, but if you do like updates, there's the insider program, and that's what that's for. You
Yeah.
don't
True.
you shouldn't force everyone, and when most people don't like updates, you don't have to have those people update every 6 months. So this is
So
better.
here's an interesting thing, right? And what because if you're a home and pro customer, you get 18 months of support, right? And I believe last week we talked about how 1803 users are going to start getting force upgraded to 1903 soon, right? Did we
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
that last week? Yeah,
yeah. We mentioned that.
because 1803 is in its last 6 months of support, and therefore it's time for them to force you to move on. So the same thing should happen with 19H2, or it'll be called 1909 at some point. And that means that if you're on 1809, they're gonna force upgrade you to 1909. And so basically, you can put yourself on a yearly upgrade cycle now. And what you can do is you can choose that big feature update in the spring, or you can choose the more stable release in the fall. And so if you force upgrade your machine when this comes out next year, if they do this next year with 20H2, that's the one that Microsoft's going to push you to. Whereas right now, because a lot of people are still on 1803, they're going to push all those people in 1903, and then in another year they're going to push you to 2003. You see what I'm saying? Is this making
Yeah,
sense? Yeah.
yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So if you like the stable release, force upgrade your machine when this comes out. You know?
exactly, and you can just choose between this more stable cycle when you get updated in the later half of in the second half of the year, or if you want to get the new features faster, you can just
Right.
stay in the first half of the
Yeah.
year. Or if you want, you can just update every 6 months if you're into that, of course. But
Of course, which is what we'll do, naturally.
yeah,
I assume that this is still going to roll out the same way that 1903 did with the download and install option, and then they push you. I mean, they haven't said anything different, and they did say this is how feature updates are rolling out from now on, and they're doing it with a lot of cumulative updates as well, the optional ones. So this should roll out the same way. I understand why they're not confirming it though, um, because this is something completely new. They've never rolled out a feature update this way. So what they're doing is they're not making promises when they're not 100% sure that they're going to deliver. They're going to collect feedback. They're going to see if people like it. If people rise up and they say, "Hey, I want my big 2 feature updates a year. Where are they?" Then they might change it back.
yeah, and that's what they should do because it's better. It's probably better to stay quiet and for a while, considering how far away we are from when that's going to be relevant,
Yeah.
than to promise something now that they have no idea if they're going to keep up with.
Right. Right. And
So
this is a company that has no idea. They don't understand their users.
yeah,
They really don't. They don't understand that. Like to come out in 2015 and say, "Hey, here's Windows 10. It's Windows as a service. You're gonna love it. We take care of updates for you. You get 2 big updates a year with new features." Like no one wanted that. No one wanted that. But
yeah,
there it was.
I think that might have had to do with also keeping Windows Phone updated, which people expect from mobile systems, and they were trying to like make it one thing.
Yeah,
But
but you know what though? People expect yearly updates for smartphone operating systems. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
Apple is every fall. Google is every summer or what, August or so.
yeah, August. And yeah, that's true. I don't know if Microsoft thought they'd be ahead of the game by updating more often, or if they, I don't know.
I think that they thought that people love being delighted by new features, and they thought that's what I think they thought.
Yeah, but they aren't. Most
No,
people
no, no
were.
one, no one. Yeah,
Yes, that didn't go as they wanted to. But
yeah,
I do hope they continue doing this for future H2 updates. I think that's the best for the vast majority of people. I'll just stay in the fast ring with one of my machines
yeah,
and have that.
yeah.
So I'll be happy either way, right? So it's important to cater to the actual real life users.
You know what the thing is, if they don't continue to do this, then that pretty much says that Windows was in such a bad state that they had to take a break from regular feature updates to do just one update that focuses on quality.
That's one way to look at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, 1809 was terrible. That was not good.
18
So
no, 1809 was good. All right. I don't care what anybody says. It had a major bug that affected a very tiny amount of people, right? Which was your files getting deleted. But if you weren't one of those people, it was a good update.
yeah,
I updated many machines. I had no problems with it. 1803 I thought was far worse. And
yeah, we've talked about that
yeah,
before.
we have. We have. But yeah, it's happening a lot, and I guess this is one of the things this is a change, I'm sure, as a result of 1809 and 1803.
Yeah,
This
and
was supposed to be about bringing the new Windows Core to Azure, where 20H1 they were going to update the core, so um, they put all of their work into that because Azure's still using like 1607 or something. And that was Mary Jo Foley's story a while back. So if that's really what it's all about, they also don't need to do this going forward. Although I still think they should.
yeah, that I do think they should. If regardless of what the reason was, I think this is the best approach
Yeah.
for just about everyone because yeah, as long as you have the fast string testing the next feature update, insiders will still have that excitement, if you can call it that, for the new features coming next year. So
Yeah.
I think this is a solid, a good choice for the delivery system going forward. I do hope they keep that up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. And I think people are going to embrace it
Yeah,
um, as
I'm
much as they
actually
can.
yeah, I actually put my main machine on the slow ring now. Just it's a service pack, so who cares, man?
Yeah, it is. It's great. There's no known issues right now, although I'm sure there will be known issues at some point. Um, what? One other thing that I wanted to point out was that 1903 and 1909 will be supported side by side, and I don't know if a lot of people realize that because it appears as a cumulative update because they're only increasing the minor build number, but that doesn't mean that we're not still going to get cumulative updates on 1903 for people that don't go straight to 1909.
Yeah, that's why the minor build number increased so
So
much
much,
because
yeah,
yeah, because in
10,000.
the yeah, in the 18 months that 1903 is going to be supported, it's not never gonna get to 10,000 in the
Right,
minor build number. So
right, and it's 18 months for everybody because the spring update um, gets 18 months of support. The fall update gets 30 months for enterprise and education. So, yeah. All right. That's 19H2. Anything else you want to add about 19H2?
no, not really. I'm just
Oh,
glad
yeah.
they're doing this. I think this is a good.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. Let's talk about Huawei. They may or may not be allowed to purchase U.S. products now. Um, I don't know, man. So it was reported that the president said that Huawei will be able to purchase stuff from U.S. companies again,
Yep,
and
about time.
yeah, and then apparently the Department of Commerce is saying like maybe not. Um, it is about time if true.
Yeah.
It's a
This
little
is
confusing.
it is the whole situation is just messed up. I don't even we
Totally.
don't even know why this needs to be happening because it's
Yeah.
completely arbitrary. They
Yeah.
say it's security, but it's
Right. Exactly. So either way, whether they're allowed to or not, Trump said that they can, um, and he said that at the G20 summit, and it's almost like there was no security concern at all. If he says that it's all right, it's almost like, you know what, they really are just caught in the middle of his trade war. You know,
yeah, that has to be it. Nothing has changed. Huawei hasn't
sorry.
really done anything different, so it can't be security.
Right, right. No, well,
So
yeah, yeah. I
it's
mean, they've never proven anything. Um, so someone pointed out that Huawei may have taken some subsidies from the Chinese government or something, but Amazon pays $0 in taxes to the U.S. government. Like this stuff kind of happens. Um, I mean, Huawei's like the big company of China. They're you know they're a big part of the Chinese economy. So if you want to go to war with China, a trade war with China, you go after Huawei, and
yeah.
it's a real shame. It's a real
Yeah,
shame.
this trade war is complicated. I wrote another article about how companies are moving their manufacturing out of China too.
Oh yeah.
Because of that instability. Even if this is if Huawei is not allowed to buy stuff, companies are scared because the fact that this
Of course
happens.
they are. Of course they are because China, as far as I know, hasn't retaliated yet, and they can. You know.
Yeah, this is just a mess. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I don't really know what to say. I'm not an expert on foreign politics in
Neither
any
am I.
in any way, but it's just messed up. I do hope things get back on track sooner rather than later, and that damage can still be controlled because
Yeah, yeah, it's bad for Huawei and it's bad for the American companies that sell them parts. Before all this happened, right? Huawei couldn't get into the United States with phones, and I think the reason for that is that Qualcomm actually kind of owns the U.S. market for 4G LTE. If you make a phone that's 4G LTE and you want it to be sold in the United States, it almost always has to have a Qualcomm modem in it. And even like the Samsung Galaxy S6, when they didn't use Qualcomm chipsets, it had Qualcomm modems. And
oh
yeah, and Huawei obviously uses its own custom stuff. They use their own chipsets, they use their own modems. And but still, if you wanted a Huawei laptop, you could buy that here. And it's kind of, you're using off the shelf parts from American companies, and that wasn't deemed a security threat, whatever they're calling it. And
yeah.
it was really just their own phones with their own custom hardware, and now they're just pushing everything out for some reason, which is just crap.
Yeah.
It's I think it's aside from the trade, it's about 5G. It's about wanting the 5G networks to be built off of non-Chinese companies.
Yeah,
So you push those companies out.
they just want to win the race, but that I don't know. Is that a valid way to fight to win? You just
No, no, the best way to win is to make better products, but apparently
exactly.
we can't do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible. When yeah, I just when Vodafone or however you say that in English announced 5G in the UK this week. I also wrote that, and
Yeah,
they have the 5G router that's router. I don't know.
router.
It's made by Huawei. Yeah, and it's irrelevant. I just wrote that it's made by Huawei in the article just to remind people that Huawei is still doing 5G stuff.
Yeah,
That
that
is
that
over.
outside of the U.S., people aren't scared of Huawei for some reason. It's almost like we made up a security concern about them.
Yeah, I just added that just so people would know that Huawei's still doing it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, next segment. Windows Phone is dead.
Again, still.
Again, you know, so do you know that Michael Gillette? I don't know if people listening know who Michael Gillette is. You should follow him if you don't. But he has a page called "Days Since Windows Phone is Dead" articles. Because you remember, like a while back, it would be like every day someone would write "Windows Phone is dead" for some new reason, and I went to his page and it says 0 days since Windows Phone is dead article. This is like a month ago. And I'm like, you know, it seems to be stuck on 0. He goes, oh yeah, it's just hard coded to say 0.
At this point.
Yeah. So, yeah. So Windows Phone 8.x and Windows 8 no longer get app updates as of July 1st. The store should be shut down completely. So you shouldn't be able to get apps from the store at all, really. And that means that if you're on Windows Phone 8.1, there is no way to get to Windows 10 Mobile because you needed an app from the store for that. When I checked, when I wrote the article, the store was still working, so you could still get that app. So you still get app updates on your phone if you're on Windows 10 Mobile. However, you know, obviously Windows 10 Mobile only went up to version 1709. So apps targeting your build of Windows are going away soon anyway.
Yeah. So it's dead. Everyone knows
Yeah.
it's dead.
Yeah. Windows 8, by the way, you did need to get to Windows 8.1 through the store, and though Microsoft confirmed that while you can't use the store for apps, you can use it to upgrade to Windows 8.1 still. So that's good.
Yeah, that's positive. And from there you can still update to Windows 10 if you get the update assistant, right? So
Right. Well, I don't it's probably not a free upgrade though. Very confused
yeah,
about if it's free upgrade or not.
yeah, they had that thing. This was just 1 year, but then if you had the accessibility, whatever it was,
Right.
you could still get that separate update. And
I think
I
that's
don't know.
over.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's over as well. So
if you have a retail product key for Windows 7 or 8 or 8.1, those will work to get you Windows 10.
oh, they will. I'm not sure how that
Absolutely.
works. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I've used it. And so yeah, so if you have a retail key, you could just punch in that key into the Microsoft store and it'll activate your Windows 10. It's great.
Oh,
It's great.
that's good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
bought Windows 8 when it was like when it first came out, it was like 30 or $40 for Windows 8 Pro, and I bought it.
Oh, that's actually not expensive for the Pro.
Yeah, they always do these kinds of deals when it first comes out, you know, try to push people to upgrade. So, Windows Phone is dead. Yeah,
What else is new?
yeah. So you know, if you upgraded your Windows Phone to Windows 10 Mobile, if you have a Lumia 940 or 940 XL, you're the
950?
what
It said 940. That doesn't sound right.
640.
Oh,
Did
okay.
I say 940?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
you did.
it's Lumia 640 or 640 XL. The latest version you got was 1703, so you're on build 15063. If you're on literally any other phone, the latest builds you got was 14393. So new apps going into the store generally, I mean, you can set your own target, but the minimum is usually 15063, I think. Um, the apps I put in the store recently target 15063. Um, so you might not get many app updates anyway, but you know, you really should be moving on at this point.
Yeah. It should
By
be
the way,
moving on at
if
least in
you're
the
looking for someone
past
to move on
year.
to, Huawei makes great phones.
Yeah, they're great.
They are
It's
phenomenal. Oh.
um, it's always a valid option if you're not in the US.
When do you think was the first sign that we should have seen that Windows Phone was dying?
Oh wow, there
It's
were a
like,
lot of
you know,
signs.
I asked this question because for so long, a lot of us just we hung to these delusions, right? For probably well into 2016 when HP was coming out with the Elite X3 and that was the super phone and you know Microsoft wouldn't be distributing this to big partners like HP unless they had a future planned, you know, and obviously that was the end. You know.
Yeah. For me, I had the 640, and I felt like once we started adding it to 1703 and nothing really new was being added, I found like I think that's when I found that things are just not going anywhere, and so
I would say long before 1703, what I say is that the signs that we should have seen. Um, I would say one, um, when they first released Windows 10 Mobile in on March 17th, 2016, and I don't forget that date, and they announced the phones that it was going to be delivered to. Because remember, they had originally said all Windows Phone 8.1 devices, and then the day of the release, they said, "Here's the devices that are going to get it."
yeah,
Not
that
a day
is
before. It was crazy, and it's like that, and it was a big middle finger to anybody who had a Windows phone, and it was crazy.
it
Uh,
was just terrible. You can't. I said this last time. You can't do that.
no,
You
no,
can't give people betas, let them try, and then just say, oh,
yeah.
you can't get the final version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but if they are, because I get it, insider previews are previews and things are subject to change, but you don't do that on the day of the release. And people were waiting for this release. This was 1511. It shipped to PCs in November 2015, and the Lumia 950 and 950 XL shipped in November 2015 with Windows 10 Mobile. The upgrade didn't come for existing phones until March. So they had 4 months where they were sitting on this update, and they were just servicing it because it wasn't good enough, because they never put that kind of effort into mobile to make it good enough on day one like they would for PCs.
Yeah, the whole situation was just a
It was a
mess.
mess. But before that, I'd say going back a year before that was like, you remember in September 2014 at IFA, they announced the Lumia 830 and they called it the affordable flagship. And that March, I was at Mobile World Congress, or was it late February, whenever it was, and when they were announcing the 640 and the 640 XL, and I remember seeing people with Lumia 830s, people that would normally have a flagship phone, but there was no flagship phone to buy,
Yeah.
and it was just really weird. People using a Snapdragon 400 device as their flagship, and like you could kind of see like something is wrong with this market right now, and that should have been one of our first signs, was that something is wrong with this market right now, and we all assumed obviously that the market is going to turn around, that Microsoft has something big planned. Windows 10 is coming, and they're going to launch big flagship devices, and those flagship devices end up being lame, plastic, dull looking devices with subpar OLED displays. Um, I say subpar because, like, if you had a 930, that was a nice OLED display, but
Oh, I don't know. I didn't realize that the displays on the 950 were bad. I
they
was
weren't
actually.
bad. They weren't bad, but they didn't feel like flagship quality to me.
Uh,
Like, you put it next to the 930, and the 930 was so much nicer to look at. With the curved glass, and it was a little glossier. It was just it was nicer.
I am gonna take your word for it because
Yeah.
um but yeah, that I thought they were nice phones when they announced it, but people, even at when they were announced, the 950, 950 XL, people were skeptical because of how quickly they got Windows Phone out of the way on that day, because it was just like 15 minutes to announce that 550. I mean, the 550 was just like a sentence. We also have the 550, and it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. The
and
950
then
also, it was it's like, it was only like a couple minutes, and that was a great event. I'm
yeah,
laughing thinking about it. Panos Panay was like, two antennas. Why would we do that? Why would we do that?
yeah. I remember that, and I remember being sort of impressed. I don't know if I was just easy to impress. Yeah, two antennas. That's cool.
Listen,
Idea.
it's because Panos is such a good presenter.
Yeah, he is. He
It's
is a good.
it's like at an Apple event where you kind of watch the event and you're like, wow, this looks really cool, and then you sit back and think about, like, wait, they didn't even really do anything exciting. but he's such a good presenter. He's able to talk about things and make you want them. And
Yeah, he is. He is
you
very
know,
good.
it was very brief for those three phones. But by the way, the main reason it was brief is because it didn't come from the Surface team. Um, it came from what was left of Nokia,
Right.
and I don't think Panos was happy with the products. Um, I thought they were fine as far, you had the Mozo cases, and I remember at the event trying to ask people, like, look, you have these beautiful Mozo cases, and you're coming out and saying Mozo is the official accessory partner for these devices. And I'm like, why didn't you just make the phone that way? you know, rather than saying like, here's our ugly phone. I almost said something different. So here's our ugly phone, but you can make it nice if you buy something from these other people.
Yeah,
They could have
that's
just made a nice phone.
yeah. Just buy the cases from them yourself and like ship them like that. I don't know,
Yeah. Well, I mean, look
but
again. The 930 and the 830 were beautiful devices. They had the metal frame, and plus Nokia devices were nice. The different colors, like even when you had an all plastic Nokia phone, they made it look premium. And
they did.
I particularly like the ones with the metal frames, the 830 and the 930 though. And but they were beautiful. Like no one else has been able to make a phone with a bright green back and make it look as beautiful as a 930 or an 830.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh.
Nokia had a very strong design identity
Yeah.
with they really did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, like the,
and
the, the yellow Lumia 1020, the cyan 920. It's beautiful phones.
yeah,
Beautiful.
they worked somehow.
Yeah.
If you see phones with those colors nowadays, most of them are kind of You look at the
They're
colors of
low
the
end.
iPhone 10R, for example. That's
Yeah. But I
but
don't like the colors that Apple uses. And we talked about this last week when we talked about Johnny Ive leaving. They're just they're too like I don't know, pastel, is that the word I'm looking for?
maybe
Um
I'm not sure how to define.
I
I
don't know.
get what you mean, but I don't know how to define it either.
Like the Nokia colors were kind of vibrant, maybe bold
Yeah,
is the word I'm looking for. And
yeah,
and I don't feel that way about Apple's stuff. Um
yeah.
and
I
they
get.
were nice.
Yeah, they were very nice. I didn't have the only one I had was the 820, and that was black, so it
Yeah.
wasn't. But they did have a very strong design identity, and
I
I
have
think
at
that.
least 12 Lumias.
Wow.
Yeah, I have so many. Let me see. I'm gonna try to go through the list. I have four 500 series, like the 520, 530, 535, and 550, 635, 650, 830, 930. I have a bunch. And they're awesome. Yeah, they're beautiful devices. It's so sad. And it was so sad that like seeing the 950, like the 950 was supposed to be the phone for the fans. And they really didn't deliver on that. So
Yeah, and they weren't excited about it, and I think that's a big problem. If you have a bunch of people that are excited for a product, and then you announce a product that's for
right,
them, but you're not excited about it, then it
right,
doesn't really work. And
yeah,
so
yeah. So we're way off topic. The the, nine,
yeah.
the 950 has nothing to do with the Windows Phone 8 store closing down.
Windows Phone always does it. So you always get carried away.
We can. I put it on the list and like, all right, we'll be able to talk about that for a while. It's to me like the whole story is so interesting because it was really just such a long downfall, and for a long time we all kind of thought that Microsoft had something bigger planned, that they're kind of killing it so it can be reborn, and just none of that happened. And so, by the way, there were plans there at some points. Um, I remember reading a comment on Windows Central once, and this guy talked about it like it was a religion. Like he actually talked about it like it was a religion. That about how there's going to be some grand that Microsoft has a grand scheme, and people that stayed faithful will be rewarded for their efforts.
Oh,
And it's like,
that's Jason
yeah,
Ward, right? He's the one who writes those editorials.
he writes the
Yeah,
editorials, yeah, but it was a
yeah.
comment, and but this was a comment though, and
Oh, it was actual. Okay.
yeah. So, but it was like a religion, and I remember reading this like, no, dude. Here's the thing, right? Um, Windows 10 Mobile was in a really sorry state in 2016, and if you think that Microsoft is gonna come back with their big thing in 2018, they're gonna have Surface Phone, and they're gonna have this amazing platform. Um, you're still wasting 2 years. There's no reward for staying with that. Um,
Yeah.
I say 2 years because cell phone contracts were 2 years, and I think the upgrade cycle is usually about 2 years. So if you bought an Android phone, you used that for 2 years, and then you went back to Microsoft's new amazing Windows Phone platform. You didn't miss out on anything. There's no reward for staying with that.
That is true. Even and actually, that was my mentality. In 2017, I bought the Nokia 5, and I was still kind of hoping Microsoft would do something. So I was like, in a couple of years, if they do that, I'll just jump on Windows Phone again.
Yeah.
So there was really no reason to stay with Windows Phone. If in 2016, even then it was, but 2017 for sure, there was no reason to have a Windows Phone. So I got Android, and you know, I was still hopeful, but I wasn't going to stay with that platform for that time.
Yeah.
So
I know a lot of normies that have had Windows phones. It's weird talking to people who like, oh yeah, Windows phones. I had a Nokia years ago. It was great. And I said, which one do you have? I don't know, the big one. And they didn't know, but they like, I loved it. I said, well, why didn't you get another Windows phone? I don't know. And it's just that like they had their chance to keep these guys around, add more, and they didn't take it. So
yeah, I don't know. It's just a
that's
lot of
Windows
bad
Phone.
decisions. Yeah.
I think our next conversation about this is in December, and that should be our final one. Um,
You never know.
you
You
never
never
know.
know.
You never know when the next Windows Phone is dead story is going to come up, but it should be like in December. I believe it's December 10th is the final end of support for Windows 10 Mobile version 1709, and that should be it. Um,
Then it'll just
Windows,
be stuff about Andromeda being dead and whatever.
yeah, but this is the end of the line for Windows Phone 8.x devices because remember those 1703 devices are not supported anymore, which was as of I think the second week of June. So yeah, that's it. It's all devices that shipped with Windows 10 Mobile.
Yeah, it's basically just the 950, 550, and 650 now.
No,
They're
there's more.
still.
I mean, there's a bunch of third-party devices that shipped with Windows 10 Mobile that are still well. I mean, obviously like the HP Elite X3, the Alcatel, and there were a bunch of small. Vio made one. There were a bunch of small companies that made phones for Windows 10 Mobile. Acer made one, but remember that never got supported. That never even got the anniversary update, and no one really knows why.
Yeah, what was up with that? I don't remember. That was what is it
Yeah.
called again? I don't even remember.
Jade Primo or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Why did they make that? I don't know. Acer phones
I don't
are
know.
trash usually. They they rarely make them, but I think they're all
I don't.
terrible.
I don't know if I've ever used an Acer phone. Um, yeah. So Windows 10 18932. That's 20H1. Tell us about that because I was at the hospital meeting my friend's baby.
I was caught by surprise because this thing came out at 9 a.m. Pacific time instead of the usual 10 a.m. So
Yes.
I just happened to open Twitter and there was a tweet about it 30 minutes ago. What? So I just
I
had
tell
to.
you though, I was at the hospital, right, and like 5 minutes to 12 or well 12 Pacific or 9 a.m. And 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern, and
Yeah.
I messaged somebody on the Windows Insider team. I'm like, hey, are we getting a build at 10 a.m. today? Because I'm at the hospital. My friend just had a baby, and it would be really helpful if you could let me know. Because I remember like you were gone Monday and Tuesday. I didn't know if you were around either. And like, actually, we're flying in 8 minutes. Like, what?
Oh wow.
Yeah. So tell us
Yeah, I
about
was
this.
really. Yeah, so probably the biggest build we've had so far. Still not very big, but it's got some improvements for eye control. So it's been a while since they've talked about eye control in the standard builds, I think.
Right.
They added this. I don't know if it was on the launch version of Windows 10 or if it was in a later update, but they added support for eye trackers like Toby and stuff like that. And now they're improving it. There's drag and drop improvements, pause improve, and I don't know any of this. So if you use eye trackers, I'm sure you'll know
Yeah.
what all this means. But they've improved that, and that comes in a timely manner because a couple of weeks ago they had those eye control games on the Microsoft Store,
Yep.
and they released those, so it kind of aligns with that, I guess.
Yeah.
Other accessibility stuff, the magnifier now supports dark theme, so that's nice. And then notification settings have improved as well. So this was actually hidden in a previous build. I think Steve wrote about it.
Oh
So
yes.
some people got it with 18922, but or 917 maybe. And yeah, now it's apparently available for everyone. So there's a new little gear icon on notifications and a bunch of stuff. You can mute sounds for notifications for all of them
Yes.
at once.
So like pretty much every other platform that delivers notifications, and like every other platform has done for years,
Yeah.
you can change the settings from an app from the notification. Like, you know how on Android, if you get a notification, you could slide it over a little bit. There's a little settings icon. You tap it and it'll take you to notifications for that app.
Yeah.
And so you can do that in Windows now, which is great.
Yeah, I guess it's about time. You could already do it from the Action Center by right clicking.
Yeah.
Now you can do it from the toasts. That's really the change here.
Yeah, I might stop I might stop turning off all notifications on Windows 10 PCs and look into doing this. You know, that's what I do. Like when I get a new PC, that's part of my routine is I just shut off all notifications that come in because I'm not interested. You know, most notifications are awful. They really are. You know, like, yeah, your phone notifications supported now. That was already out there though, right?
Oh yeah, that was. This is just now available for everyone. I think that was the only thing that changed. Notifications are now
Okay.
not out of beta. If
Right.
I think that's the thing,
Yeah.
and improved support for phone screen mirroring, which is still only available for mostly Samsung phones and the One 6 and 6T. So very restricted subset of people,
Yeah.
I would say. I mean, most people have Samsung phones, I guess, but still, I don't know why
Yeah.
this isn't compatible with every Android phone. I don't know what the restriction is there.
I don't know. I don't use your phone. I don't use it at all.
I do,
So,
and I've been so mad with it lately.
yeah.
I think I told you about this. Since I got the Red Magic 3 to review, my
Mm.
I have two phones linked to Windows 10, but my Nokia 7.1 has actually been completely turned off, and my computer keeps trying to connect to it. If I open the Windows phone, the Your Phone app right now, it still says the Nokia 7.1, even though I haven't used it in a week and a half.
Jeez.
Uh, it's still doing
Yeah.
that. I got a notification saying it's ready to pair with my Nokia 7.1 that I haven't used in a week and a half.
Wait, you removed it from the Your Phone app?
No, it's there
No.
because I to remove it you have to go to the Microsoft account settings and actually removing from your
Oh wow.
account.
Yeah.
You can't just remove it from the app. It just keeps trying to connect to whatever you have,
That
even if you're not
sucks.
using it. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work. It's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing, right? With for me, I do like to be able to text from my PC. If I'm on an Android phone, though, I'm going to use Android messages on the web. And if I'm on an iPhone, there's no way to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Except for some third party thing, like Dell makes one and HP makes one, but your phone doesn't do it. Apple has a real web app problem. I gotta
Apple is
say,
yeah, they
for someone, for a company that's becoming a services company, very quickly. They don't do a lot of web apps. They
Mm.
like let's take Amazon, right? If I buy a movie from Amazon and I want to watch on my Windows 10 PC, there's no app for that. So I just go to Amazon.com and I watch it. Um, if you buy a movie from iTunes and you're on a platform that doesn't have iTunes, you can't just go to a browser and watch it. There's no way to do that. And the same thing goes for messages. Like when are they going to do iMessages for the web? I don't get it. Why they don't do this? You know?
Well, maybe now that they're doing that shift to a more service-based company,
Yeah.
they'll think
It
about it.
just
But
it just seems like they're very much not focused on web apps. And that's why I mentioned iTunes as well. They seem more focused on native apps for the platforms that they want to be, and that's a problem because it's hard to be everywhere when you're not used to being everywhere.
yeah, and I don't know if they want to be everywhere because they're very selective. Like Apple Music is only on. Can you use Apple Music on Windows? And I don't even know.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can.
you
I
can.
mean,
Oh,
and
oh,
through
if we go through
iTunes. So
iTunes, oh,
you
okay.
got, but that's another thing though. You like, here's the thing that like they're splitting up iTunes on Mac OS. They're not splitting it up on Windows. You still have to use this piece of crap. It's no, really, it's terrible. This bloated app. You still have to use that on Windows. And you know what? Like, what would make it a lot easier is if they just made an Apple Music web app. And you could just play music through the browser, like you can with every other music service out there. Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, every other one has a web app. Um, they could do the same thing with podcasts. They could do the same. They can make an Apple TV web app. But they're not doing that.
No, they really just want that ecosystem. It feels like they just really like their ecosystem.
Well, they do, but they're splitting out that ecosystem onto other platforms. Apple Music on Android was big, but also now they're bringing iTunes to a bunch of different smart TVs. They're bringing, Samsung, and it's coming to others. And it's, from what I understand, it's also coming to smart set top boxes like Roku. And so
Yeah.
so you can make things like, obviously they want to be in more places because you can't part of being a services company means you have to have services for families and entire households, and there's no entire households that have all Apple products. And if you don't have all Apple products, that service doesn't make sense for your family in any way, so they have to be on those other platforms no matter what.
Yeah, it's Apple is weird. Uh,
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe they'll work on that. Right now,
I
it
would
is
hope
a
so.
mess.
So yes,
It's
like we were saying, your phone in 18932.
yeah. I went back to look at the news list we have here, and I was like, where the heck did they come from to get to this talk about Apple?
I don't know. Yeah, it's just, got a little off topic there, which I don't mind doing once in a while. All right, next one. Microsoft made a hub for all its insider programs. This is a pretty simple one. It's a simple web page. It's a web page with 7 different insider programs on there, which is Windows, Office, Skype, Visual Studio Code, Xbox, Edge, and Bing. And I actually thought it was a pretty cool idea, and I was surprised that they never thought of it before. Because now, if they add another insider program, they just throw it up on that page. It's one central hub for all of them.
Yeah, it makes sense. And
Yeah.
it made me realize how many insider programs I'm actually enrolled in because I have all of these except Visual Studio Code and Xbox.
Yeah, I'm in all of them except Visual Studio Code. I'm gonna have to get involved in. I don't know if I need preview features for that though, but
Yeah,
that's pretty
I've
good.
not. Yeah, so it's a nice little hub.
Yeah.
So
All right. Samsung has reportedly fixed the Galaxy Fold.
it's about time. It took a little
Yeah.
longer. I don't know if I mean we talked about this before, and I did say it would probably take a couple of months at least for them
Yeah.
to
Yeah, you did.
to implement that stuff. But there were a lot of rumors, during that time that it was already fixed. I think a lot of people had already said they were getting ready to announce it or something like that.
Yeah, there's
That was
always a
it.
rumor. I didn't believe any of them. I
Yeah.
still don't. So the protective film that was on the screen that people were taking off was breaking the screen. So now that protective film is going to wrap around the entire screen and flow into the outer bezels, according to Bloomberg. And now people won't be able to take it off. And I still think that 0 units of this phone will ship in 2019. I haven't changed my bet on that. 0 units shipped in 2019.
I'm not willing to make any bets. It's been complicated. Huawei also delayed their phone, even though they never really announced the launch date, I
Right.
think. But people were expecting it a little earlier, and that's not gonna happen.
I got to play with the Mate X at a Huawei event a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
what you
very
think?
cool. It was very
It
cool.
is, right? It is. Yeah, I tried it at MWC. It is very nice. It was better than I
Yeah.
thought it would be.
I mean, I
Did you
don't think
notice
it's worth
any?
$2,600, but
Yeah, of course not.
got to start somewhere.
Did you notice any a crease when it was flat? I didn't see anything when I tried to.
No, I don't think so. And I'm guessing that has something to do with it folding on the outside of the phone.
Yeah, because it has this, I guess, so not as a tight of an angle, so it doesn't have
Yeah.
to. It doesn't have the same impact on the film,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But
I did really like it, and I still think they probably have the best idea for a folding phone. I think it's better than the Galaxy phone.
yeah, well, my problem with the Galaxy Folds is that tiny display on the outside.
That's
And
useless.
right. And I think that for a phone like this to be practical, that display on the outside has to be the primary one because that extra step to open the phone, you really don't want to do that unless you want the bigger screen. Like don't expect people to always open it up every time they take their phone out of their pocket.
Exactly, and again, I think we've talked about this in probably one
Yeah.
of the first episodes of this. You don't
Right.
you don't want to have to open it every time you want to use the phone.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense because the big screen is for specific use cases and multitasking and stuff. And you
So
don't
also, apparently, though, speaking of the crease, apparently they raised the hinge so that it's flush with the display, and that should help with the crease in the phone.
let's hope so.
Yeah, and there's no new release date. Samsung is holding its Galaxy Unpacked event on August 7th, and apparently the Galaxy Fold will not make an appearance, according to the report from Bloomberg, which would be awful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. It's weird. It would be interesting if it was there because
It should be.
it should be.
Uh-huh.
The phone's so good. We announced it at 2 different events. It's great.
Yeah. Well, no, Samsung. I feel like Samsung's been very upfront about how much they suck. Um, you know, when the Galaxy Note 7 was exploding and catching fire and stuff, they came out at the next event and they said, "Hey guys, we screwed up. Thank you for still being here. We really appreciate you guys for standing by." Like they were very upfront about what happened, you know, and I feel like they're the type of company that would come out and say, "Hey, the Galaxy Fold, it's we struggled with it. And here's all the things that we did to make it better, and like say front and center, um, all those things that they did to make it better, and we're gonna launch it later this year, and then the press that's there could play with the new models and see what's different about it and everything. But
That does sound like something they would do. Do you
yeah,
think they'll have another Galaxy Unpacked event just for the phone? Maybe later in the year?
I don't know, man. Now here's the thing, right? Talking about it at an event is one thing. Having another event for a phone that was already launched, that seems like going a little bit
Uh,
too far.
Probably, yeah.
Um, I think they'll just reopen pre-orders at some point and put out a press release that says, "Hey, we fixed it." Maybe they'll talk about it and not show it because I do think they want to say on stage that you know you don't have to worry about buying this phone, this phone that broke in the hands of reviewers because we did all this stuff to fix it. So
Yeah, that seems like a thing they could do. Just talk about it, maybe at the end or at the start. No, I know you guys are waiting. We know you guys are waiting for this.
yeah,
We heard your feedback. We're working on it. We've worked on it, and we'll have news to share later. Something like that.
yeah.
That's probably something they could do.
All right, so I'm gonna say March. That's
That means they're gonna have to go for another processor. They can't release this thing with an
but
855.
can't they? Because then they got to re-engineer it all over again. Yeah,
that is true. But I
that,
mean, if they do that, I mean,
that is why I said March. Okay, because I have a feeling that this thing is going to end up being a year behind when it's released, and they're still going to charge $2,000 for it. That's the type of thing that it's going to be. Samsung is also very much the type of company that wants to be first at everything. They don't care if it's actually good. It's just that they just want to be first.
that is also true. Do you think they'll
Right.
still beat Huawei? Do you think Huawei will be able to get there first?
Well, as we've talked about, Huawei has all kinds of other problems
Yeah,
to
that is true.
they announced it at the same time. Um, at this point, I don't know if it really matters who ships first. You know,
Yeah, yeah, probably not. It's
Huawei's not having the same problems. So
yeah. Huawei is a whole other thing to deal with right now. So
yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the Mate X starts shipping soon because I just want to get my hands on one. I want them to send me one. I want to play with it.
I would like to do that too. I really like it. Oh, could you? By the way, just did you get to actually phone and unphone it yourself? Because we
Yes, I
couldn't.
did.
I did
I
that
did.
before they. I did that before they yelled at me that we couldn't do that.
Wow. It was interesting because to unfold it, you have to press a button on the side of the phone, and that seemed a little weird to me. Yeah,
Oh yeah, you have to release it because it unlocks.
yeah. And there's other things that were weird too. Was like first of all, the camera seemed very low resolution. I was going through the camera settings, and I don't know, it could have just been because it was a prototype or something, but it was like a 6 megapixel camera or something.
But
That hmm?
I don't think I tested the camera, but it was a triple camera setup, right? Triple,
Was
I
it?
think it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, I think it is. So it's weird that
So
it's
it
such low
might have just been some
resolution.
issue. It might have just been some issues with the camera app and the settings that were in there. Um,
Yeah, it's very early, I guess. So it's
but it was pretty cool. It was cool. That's all.
yeah,
It's
yeah, it is cool. It looks
like
interesting.
it's the type of thing like I'd really need to have it in my hands for a couple weeks to see if it's beneficial and to see if I could really make use of it in real life.
Yeah, you need to test it out. I don't know if I'd ever use for the big screen either. It looks cool. I'm not sure if I'd use it. It's one of those things. It needs to find a use case first. Right now,
Yeah,
companies are just really testing it,
and
and
that's true of anything new is that there's no use case for it when it first comes out because it's never existed before. So
yeah,
we'll see.
exactly.
All right, so tell us about Nvidia's super graphics cards.
So I didn't write this, but basically
Well, you
they're
added it
just
to the list, so it's
I did I
yeah,
did
it's all you.
because I thought it was relatively interesting news. So they're basically upgrading most of their cards, the RTX ones. So they have these new Super series for the 2060, 2070, and 2080.
Super.
They're yeah, so the Super editions. Just because that's the most obvious way you could say something is better. Really, just
Yeah.
how else are we gonna say these are better?
You could
Uh,
add X as a could be RTX 2080 X. That's always the way. But sorry, go on. Bad joke.
and anything, but it does look weird on the design of the car. So that's that green super wording.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically they're displacing the current lineup, except the 2060. They're gonna keep the 2060 around alongside the 2060 Super.
Right.
And for everything else, the 2070 Super is going to replace the 2070, and this is the 2080 Super is going to replace the 2080, and they're going to sell for the same price
That's
as
cool.
previous. So that's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're increasing the performance. The memory is faster. Some of them have more CUDA cores. Um, Also more obviously more RTX ops and more gigabytes per second for the 2060 and 2070. Then the 2080 also again faster memory. Actually, it has faster memory than the 2080 Ti now, so that's interesting. And yeah, so they're a little better. I added it because I thought it was interesting that the announcement of the cards, if you go to the Nvidia's page, they compare the 2060 to the 2070 and 26 to the 2060 Super to the 2060 and 2070 to see like where it stands in between there,
Mm.
then or something like the 2070 Super they did the same thing to compare with the 1080 Ti and the 2070. But then
2080
for the
Ti still did. There's no 2080 Ti Super.
no, there isn't. And the thing I thought it was interesting is that for the 2080 Super, they did not do performance comparisons with anything, and I thought it was weird because my first thought was they're not showing this because they don't want people to think that the 2080 Ti is useless now because like
Well, it's
the
still at the
2080
top of the line. Yeah.
it is, but it's $300 more,
Right.
and since the 2080 Super is now better, maybe they're afraid that they make people think it's not a worthy upgrade over the 2080 Super. That was my first thought when I saw the fact that they didn't compare the new 2080 Super to the 2080 Ti or to anything really. They didn't have any frame rate numbers for the 2080 Super.
I think that there was a problem with RTX cards. Um, yeah, I've read a lot of reports that RTX isn't all it's cracked up to be. That the performance isn't really there, and there are some issues. Um, I've enjoyed the ones I've used. Um, Ray tracing is awesome. They do choke at certain points. I don't know. When the machine gets hot and it's under a heavy load, it does struggle a little bit. And I bet that they worked out some of these issues with the hardware, and they were just like, hey, here's super. you know?
Yeah,
um,
and it looks good if you compare it. Uh,
yeah.
Now in some games it's actually faster than the 1080 because you have to understand, and Nvidia was fairly upfront about this. When you have RTX, even though they supported it natively and they did a lot of work for it to work well, frame rates are going to go down compared to the GTX
Hmm.
series because that's just how it is. The ray tracing takes a lot of processing power.
Right.
And if you look at the comparisons they have here, now the super lineup is much closer to the frame rates of the 1080 Ti, for example. I'm looking at the 2070 Super, for example. You look
Right.
at the frame rates; they're either much closer or actually far ahead of the 1080 Ti now. So that's good, and they're keeping the same price point, so that should make a lot of people happy. Unless
Nice.
if you actually bought a 3070 before this was announced, because that's gonna suck.
You know what's gonna look great on an RTX 2080 Super?
Cuphead.
Cuphead.
Yes, that
Yeah.
that
By
that
the
is
way,
the game that needs it the most.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm joking because Cuphead looks the same on an RTX 2080 Ti as it does with integrated graphics. um, but yeah, so the delicious last course expansion was pushed back to 2020. It was supposed to be released in 2019, and it's been pushed back. And I don't know why we still talk about Cuphead so much, but I added this to the notes. It's one of those things that I just wanted to mention that it was delayed because this game has such a long history of being delayed.
Oh, okay. I didn't keep up with that.
Yeah, like it showed up at E3, I think for the first time in 2014, might have
Oh
even been
wow.
2013. And like they kept showing it every year. There was an E3 presentation of Cuphead. and every year. And then they finally launched this thing in fall 2017. I remember it because I was playing it at Ignite, and uh, but they finally launched this thing, and then 2018 E3 comes along, and sure enough, there's a Cuphead presentation, and it's this DLC, and yeah, so it's delayed again. I was surprised there was no Cuphead demo from E3 this year. It just didn't feel like a Microsoft event. Crazy.
Yeah, they should have done that. It's just make the meme official.
Yeah.
But
Have you played the game?
no, I have not because I'm scared.
Scared?
Hard games make me very frustrated. So
it's very frustrating, but it's fun. Yeah.
I'll think about it. If it's on sale on the Switch or something, I'll consider it.
It's like a $20 game when it's not on sale. Come on.
I don't know. I have way too many games on my Switch right now, and I haven't had time to play them. So I'm gonna have to delay that for a little longer. I just realized that Delicious Last Course stands for DLC. I don't know. I didn't notice before.
Yeah.
I like it when companies do those little sneaky.
It's very sneaky.
Acronyms. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I just it's funny that we still talk about the game though. Like this game caught so much attention when it launched, probably just because of the graphics, and now it's it's one of the hardest games out there. It's very frustrating, but it's also very satisfying when you beat a level. And like it's not frustrating. It's not hard because it's complicated. It's just plain hard. It's a standard. Two-dimensional, left to right, make it to the end of the course and usually beat a boss.
Yeah.
There's nothing complicated about it.
I don't know. I feel like I get really mad.
Yeah, you'll get mad. Yeah, you'll get mad. I promise. It's
that's not very encouraging, but okay. I'll think about it.
So that's it. What do we got for next week? Anything good?
Nothing as far as I know. I don't think there are any events.
I've got nothing on my calendar until August.
Oh yeah, because then there's what's next? It's IFA, right?
Unpacked.
Oh, and yeah, IFA is in August. But that's
IFA's in August. Yeah, and then so that means this month and next month are the months of pre-briefings for IFA.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's gonna be some stuff.
You know what's next week is Inspire. Microsoft Inspire partner conference. I knew there was something next week. Yeah. I just looked at my calendar.
What do they usually announce? A lot of stuff at Inspire? I don't remember.
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes used to be called World Partner Conference, I think.
Oh, okay.
Hey, what we didn't talk about? Windows 1.0.
Oh yeah, the Twitter page for Windows at some fun this week.
Yeah, so Microsoft has been teasing Windows 1.0 all week. And like there wasn't just the one promo that we wrote about at the beginning. There's been other promos that they posted pictures of software from 1985, and no one knows what's going on because they changed their social media handles to the Windows 1.0 logo. What do you think it is?
I have no idea. Your theory was that it is a Stranger Things teaser, but they haven't gone back, and Stranger Things came out yesterday, right?
Yes, it came out yesterday. I'm 4 episodes in. But that was my theory, was that it's a promo. Like like Coca-Cola's they're selling Stranger Things packs with 2 cans of New Coke. Which was the failed version of Coca-Cola. It sold for like 79 days in 1985. And Stranger Things season 3 takes place in 1985, so that was my theory. But Microsoft has not announced anything. So
yeah, they haven't changed it back or anything.
But they're responding to comments, still saying like coming soon.
I wonder. I have no idea what to expect from this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's it. So hopefully we'll have more on that next week.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Maybe that will be our new segment of the podcast. Well, after
Where's Windows
1.0?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be it.
All right. What's your Twitter handle?
So I am at Indospot or INDOSPOT, if you don't know how to spell it yet at this point.
And I'm at the Rich Woods, and we will catch you guys next week.
All right, see you everyone.